Good evening, Galactic Jedis, Freedom Fighters, and Patriots. How is everyone doing on this beautiful evening? Today is April 30th, 2025. We are steadily on a positive timeline trajectory. Now, I have a lot of good information regarding who the 12 generals are. Now, I was informed by Commander Valiant Thor that in the revelation of these 12 White Hat generals, I could only use their code name. I can't use their real name for the purposes of planetary security reasons. Okay, so I will go over their code name, the 12 generals that are operating through Cheyenne Mountain, and their different functionaries regarding the entire international alliance. Now, before I go into that, I'm also going to go into the what's really happening in Spain and what now it's turning out to be the war of the grid. Okay, this is a blackout war. So there's a lot of things that are happening from behind the scenes, conducted by both the Earth Alliance, the Whiteheads, and of course the Cabal. This is going to be their final chess move, which is the grid war, and I will explain a little bit. And I'm also going to be giving a geopolitical update. Okay. But before I do, I want to welcome all my new subscribers. Thank you so much for being here. For those that don't know who I am, my name is Ishmael Perez, and I'm the author of two groundbreaking, amazing books. One of them is called The Secret Government Invincible Architects, which reveals the entire history of the Cabal and the Whiteheads, of course. And the second book is called Our Cosmic Origin, Restoring Back Galactic Knowledge and Earth's Place in the Organized Multiverse Back to the Earth. And then before I get started, I also wanted to mention something. Now, I know that a lot of you follow me on social media, but bear in mind that I have a lot of copycats, right? Where they use my image, they use my pictures, my videos, they create different accounts, making it seem like it's me, and they're DMing people asking for readings, and that is not me. One thing you guys should know about me is that I don't do readings. Okay, that's another fun fact about me. I don't directly DM people and say, "Oh, let me do a reading. I'm going to tap into your energy." I don't do that, especially from social media. Okay. However, for those that do take our Cosmic Origin class, part of that course is that at the end of the fourth class, by tapping into your energy, I'm able to pick up your star of origin. Okay. So again, if you're getting DMs from social media, Facebook, or whether it's Instagram, ignore those, and I would block them and report them because those are copycats. They're not me. They're fake Ishmael Perez accounts. Okay, I never directly DM people for readings. I just wanted to throw that out there because I still have people that are thinking that I'm DMing them for a reading, and that's not me. That is an imposter. Okay. And also, before I get started with the revelation of the 12 generals and their function and their operations within the Whitehead Alliance, I want to quickly go over what the Folium product does, as I've been taking it now for a few months. I started taking it back 2 years ago, and let me tell you guys, this product is amazing. I know that some of you guys have already ordered it. So there are three products: Folium PX, Folium Immuno, and Folium Relax. So PX initially was created for the chemical nuclear disaster victims back in the day to combat radiation poisoning. It was tested for the immune system during chemotherapy and radiotherapy, which was a success. A free that was modified and was tested for the heavy metal removal and was retested for the radiation removal. At this time, it showed success with combating damages even from 5 Golf, right? Those big cell phone towers, five, you know what I'm talking about, right? I call it 5 Golf, right? 6 Golf. Soon after, the Dr. Bobry Oren started developing other Folium products based on the original. The next product that became available for the general public was Folium Immuno. In addition to the functionalities of PX, Immuno also serves as a remedy that helps with inflammation, infection, combating the residuals of viruses and the stuff that people got, graphene oxide. Okay, eliminates all that. In addition to the so the fourth product is created to deal with the extreme health conditions. As the official language is not decided yet, it is not available for the general public yet. Hope it will be handed down soon in a very near future. So all the products have been tested for combating oxidative stress index, and they are working big in the natural holistic realm. And yeah, so there are 100% natural. And that is just a quick rundown of what these three products are, Folium PX. Again, the link is always in the description for those that want to get their Folium. All right, so let's get right into it, guys. I have a lot of information to share with you guys today. As you guys know, constantly getting downstreams, data, intel from the Alliance that they want me to share. So today's going to be jam-packed with a lot of good information. I hope you guys are ready. And for those that want to take notes, I'm going to do my best to speak as slow as I can. Okay, so dealing with the grid war, right, which is the final phase between the Cabal and the Alliance. And it's happening already. All right, let me go over what's really happening right now and what really happened in Spain and in Portugal a few days ago. So, in the days leading up to the blackout in Spain and Portugal, power grids in selected European regions began experiencing unexplained outages and frequency anomalies. These weren't glitches, they were precision strikes. So, behind the veil of failing infrastructure, the Yhat operatives launched a covert raid to neutralize Cabal command centers and seize compromised data nodes. From the Swiss Alps to the outskirts of Berlin, deep state strongholds were quietly dismantled. Arrest of key globalist architects began under the cover of maintenance failures and grid misfires. These takedowns weren't isolated, they were surgical. Okay, according to the insiders, they were the prelude to the Iberian collapse, the smoke before the storm. So, in retaliation, what the Cabal did is Spain was their first domino, you could say their first testing ground. Okay, so the grid war has begun. Okay, this is the final phase, guys. This is the final phase between this ancient war that is now coming to an end in favor of the alliance. And this was the opening shot. Okay, Spain wasn't just hit by a blackout. Okay, the globalists retaliated. It was hit by a test, a live exercise masked as a so-called atmospheric anomaly. Right? They were trying to blame it as some sort of atmospheric anomaly, perhaps even a flare, and that wasn't the case. Because if it was a solar flare, think about it. It would have taken out the entire global grid, not just a few countries. Okay. This is the kind of phrase that they use when they want you to stop asking questions. What really happened on April 28th wasn't a weather event. It wasn't solar flares. It wasn't a random grid failure. It was a coordinated takedown, a controlled collapse of national infrastructure executed under the green shroud of renewable energy, right? Executed under the green shroud of renewable energy, where 50 million people plunge into darkness, fear, and confusion in a matter of minutes. Okay. And if you guys think this was an accident, think again. This was the Cabal retaliating. Okay. This was a stress test of the West, a dry run to see how modern nation fully transitioned to weather-dependent power would handle absolute system failure. Okay, the entire grid was down. But Spain wasn't chosen at random. Okay, it was a sacrifice, a European test subject in a globalist experiment designed to bring the free world to its knees and then offer, of course, a salvation at a cost. So, but what the architects of this collapse didn't count on was the resistance. There is a resistance, apparently. Okay. Well, right now, it turns out that these globalists, they have been using what is known as the green mask effect. Okay. This is how the Cabal engineers energy dependence on the planet. Okay. Let's be clear. This isn't about the environment. This wasn't about the environment. It never was. Okay. The so-called green energy agenda, which, by the way, Brandon sold us out to the UN, the green energy agenda, trying to get us off of fossil fuels and alternative energy dependency, right? They call it the green energy agenda, was never intended to make the world sustainable. All right. It was actually designed to make it vulnerable, a fragile system dependent on the whims of wind and the mercy of the sun. So they sold it to the public as progress, but it was actually sabotage disguised as salvation. Decommissioned the baseload, digitized the grid, right? This was their plan. centralized control, then flip the switch. This is how the cabal operates. And this is how they've always operated from day one. For those that have read The Secret Government, Invisible Architects, right? They create the problem, then the people react to the situation, and then the same people that created the problem always offer what? Their solution, right? It's also known as the Hegelian effect in philosophy. So this is how the cabal operates: manufacture a crisis, right? Then offer their solution and gain total control. When a society's energy is unstable, when its infrastructure is digital, when its population is pacified, that society is easily controlled. Okay. Spain was the first domino. The lights went out and the mask slipped. So this was a test to see how a large population would react, conducted by the cabal in response to what happened a few days earlier when Trump went to the funeral. And again, Trump went as a war winner, right? He went for war. He went to go arrest a lot of the key, deep state globalist players. So the White Hats are actually trying to strike back, knowing that this time, that this would be happening, right? Spain was the beginning. Eventually, the cabal is going to try to also take out the entire power grid, especially in the States. So the White Hats do have some countermeasures, okay? And that is called the quantum freedom grid. And so, yeah, this is going to be the final chess move, guys. This is going to be the final chess move. So, as the blackout swept across Iberia, something else went online, something the cabal didn't see coming. And this is the reason, let me tell you guys why. This is the reason why Spain was able to get power the next day, okay? After 24 hours, I think. Spain and Portugal were supposed to stay in the dark for at least a week to 2 weeks, all right? At least a week to 2 weeks. But what happened is that the White Hats quickly implemented a countermeasure by activating in those regions what is known as the quantum freedom grid. And I've already talked about this before, all right? Which is a decentralized, unhackable lightspeed infrastructure built in secret over the last decade, activated its first node beneath the chaos, developed by a covert alliance of rogue engineers, military defectors, and technologist loyalists to free humanity. This new grid doesn't rely on fossil fuel or wind or even sunlight. It's actually tapped into 0-point quantum resonance, right? Drawing stable, localized energy from the very fabric of space-time. So the blackout wasn't just a takedown, right? It was a smokescreen for a takeover, the liberation operation, okay? So as the old grid failed in Spain and in Portugal, and again, that grid was supposed to be down for at least 2 weeks, the White Hat operators were also counteracting the situation. They severed the cabal's access to their deepest communication channels, the dark fiber lines, the military satellites, the deep net hubs hidden in sub-oceanic servers. Did you guys know that most of our communication networks, at least 85% of them, are located within the ocean? Well, now you guys do. The collapse in Spain was the trigger to dismantle the digital nervous system of global technocracy, okay? And so, yeah, it was initially done by the cabal or the globalists and then immediately counteracted by the alliance, okay? So apparently the cabal is going to try to do the same worldwide. And yes, this is it's scheduled to happen here in the States. And I'll explain why in a little bit, okay? So now, one by one, their towers are going dark. Their satellites are losing telemetry. Their encryption has been cracked. And in its place, something new is rising, which is the emergency broadcast system. Okay, so the White Hats, knowing, right, due to the fact that they have access to what is known as looking glass technology, seeing future probabilities, they knew that this day would come and that this was going to be the final checkmate. But they have to lay it play out, which means that the cabal is going to eventually go for what is known as lights out in the States, right? And eventually worldwide. So this is going to be interesting because this is what many people have been talking about regarding the 3 days of darkness, right? Only 3. And then the 10 days of darkness is when EBS kicks in. So what's going to be happening is when the cabal decides to turn off the lights here in the States, which is inevitable, guys. It's going to happen. This is, again, this is a chess game, okay? The White Hats are only going to allow for 3 days of darkness. So it is very important for each and every single one of you guys to have at least 2 weeks of food supply and water. That's it. So right now, military units loyal to the Alliance are preparing to activate the global emergency broadcast system, knowing that the U.S. grid is next. Okay, that not only the U.S. grid, but the grid in general, the global grid in general. So a false safe communication platform designed to bypass all compromised infrastructure and deliver unfiltered truth directly to the people as the emergency broadcast system will be the thing that will be, again, activated after the third day of darkness when the cabal takes out the grid here in the US. Okay. So everyone's going to hear it first. All right. Your phone will buzz, right? Your televisions are going to come back on when the quantum freedom grid, right, responds after the 3 days of darkness and replaces the old grid. And even the ones you thought couldn't connect is all going to be connected. Messages in every language, every continent, and in every home. So what comes next will change everything, okay? And that is, my friends, what we've all been waiting for: the mass arrest, the tribunals being broadcasted, not just taking place covertly as they have been, but taking place in the open, okay? The release of suppressed technologies, the ending of the engineered scarcity, right? Where for the first time in decades, we're actually going to have real food. That's a good news, right? We're going to have real food to eat, not genetically modified stuff. And then, of course, the unmasking of those who orchestrated not just this blackout, but every war, every crisis, every manipulation of the modern world for the last 100 years. And yes, guys, America is next. Spain, Portugal was just a test run for the cabal. They're trying to do this to the entire globe, beginning with America, okay? But not in the way that they planned. Again, this is a chess game. The Alliance has to let this play out in order for the Alliance to use their own Hegelian method of, again, using the means to justifying the ends. So for the White Hats, the means is this: you let the cabal take out the grid, the global grid, 3 days of darkness, but immediately after the third day, all right, the quantum freedom grid, which is connected to 0 point energy, is going to come online, which in turn will what? Will completely destroy and dismantle the entire communication network of the cabal while they're being exposed all over the televisions everywhere for 10 days straight. This is what we've been waiting for. So, yes, the same energy collapse is coming for America, right? It's part of what needs to be played out, guys, right? Just have at least a week of food and water. That's all I'm asking for, but the outcomes will be different, okay? And a lot of this has a lot to do with what? The triple temporal alliance, which was the time travel technology that was developed by Nikola Tesla and John Trump back in the early 1920s, right? So even Tesla faked his death. And yes, Tesla's still alive. So the White Hats have already seeded the quantum grid beneath key infrastructures, knowing that America is next. So they've seeded the quantum grid beneath key infrastructure nodes under the Rocky Mountains, beneath the Great Lakes, and in the heart of the old fiber backbone. So when the US blackout is triggered, whether blamed on a solar storm, cyber attack, and they're going to try to do that, guys, just like what they did in Spain, or a grid misfire, the reset will not be theirs. It will be ours. We're not watching the end of freedom, guys. We're watching the return of freedom, okay? So in addition to that, all right, again, I'm going to be talking about who the 12 generals are that are running the entire international White Hat operation. But before I do, it is important to understand that for the sake of not exposing their true identity, because a lot of them are married, they have families, I was only given their code names, okay? I was only given their code names. So just bear in mind that a lot of these generals also have civilian lives, okay? They have civilian lives. They have wife and kids. They have grandchildren. So I can't expose what their real names are, but they do have code names in which they use within the networks. One second. Okay, so the 12 generals. Yeah, the White Hat Generals, the Alliance. Here they are, deep beneath the granite shield of Cheyenne Mountain in Colorado. A covert military operation has been unfolding, one that spans every continent. It involves a secretive alliance of over 201 sovereign nations, sovereign in the sense that they are not in alignment with the NWO globalist agenda. And at the heart of this movement is a cadre of elite military leaders known in classified circles as the 12 generals of the White Hat Military Alliance. Their mission is to dismantle the vast infrastructure of the so-called New World Order and usher in a new era of global sovereignty and economic freedom. So, understand that Cheyenne Mountain was also known as NORAD, right? It is actually the primary command center for the alliance. Okay, once home to NORAD, has become the central operating base of this alliance and reinforced against electromagnetic attacks and nuclear strikes. It serves as the digital and tactical command post of the operation. So, here, secure from outside interference, the real Donald J. Trump, shielded from globalist retaliation, is leading what many insiders refer to as Operation Earth Reset. All right. This is the overall end game of the international alliance, Operation Earth Reset. Okay. And it has nothing to do with Klaus Schwab's reset. This is the opposite of that, okay? So Trump, long declared by legacy media to be out of power, has instead been operating in secrecy along the alliance. And this actually has been going on literally since 2000 and I would say 2016, because even in 2020, when they stole the election, guess who was still in power? Guess who was still the president of the republic, running everything from behind the scenes? Trump, exactly. So his role is not merely political, but strategic, acting as the civilian commander in chief of a global effort to dismantle the deep state and replace its decaying economic system. So the 12 generals, though the identities of the 12 generals are highly classified, right? Sources from within the alliance refer to them by code names. The first general, and then of course I will mention what their functionary is known as General Phoenix. General Phoenix is master of psychological operations and communications warfare. All right. So he is instrumental in the dismantling of the Khazarian mafia, the Mossad, the three-letter agencies, not just the ones here, but MI6, the ones that are running the entire globalist networks. Okay. That's what his main function is. He's master of psychological operations and communication warfare. The next general, known as General Ironhand, that's what he's called, former NATO commander, now defected to work for the alliance. Okay, so again, this is a person that used to be part of NATO, and he defected to become part of the alliance. And his operation is to pretty much bring intel into the alliance, intel from NATO. Okay, so in a way, he's got one foot in NATO, making them think like he's still, general for NATO, but he's really feeding the information to the alliance. So that's his functionary. Right? That's what he does. The next general is called Valkyrie, General Valkyrie. He's in charge of cyber warfare. He's a cyber warfare specialist and leader of global intelligence coordination. Okay, so yeah, he's actually working very closely with General Phoenix in the dismantling of the Mossad, the Khazarian Mafia, MI6, CIA, you name it. The next general is General Sentinel. Now, General Sentinel oversees space-based assets, including Starlink integration. All right. And he's in charge of implementing the quantum freedom grid when the cabal takes the lights out here in America and hence around the world, with, again, Spain being its testing ground. The next general is known as General Maverick. All right. He is a naval strategist and disruptor of deep sea data cabling networks. So this general is apparently working with a lot of what we called advanced aircraft that is capable of also operating deep in the oceans like a submarine, right? That is, again, almost 1,000 years ahead of the general public. You have to understand that the Alliance is using advanced alien technology, okay? The next general is known as General Nomad. Now, General Nomad, he's known as he's in charge of the ground force deployment across Africa and the Middle East, okay? The next general is known as General Eclipse. Again, these are code names in order to disguise their real names because they do have families. All right. So this is for the sake of protection. So General Eclipse, he's in charge of financial warfare expert. He's also a QFS architect. So he's definitely working with Commander Valiant Thor. Again, Commander Valiant Thor knows all of these generals in the implementation, of course, of the QFS. Okay. Then comes General Ghost. General Ghost. He is his operations are in Eurasia, right, which is Europe and Asia, and infiltrated the World Economic Forum structure. So his job was to infiltrate, and he's been very successful as to why Trump and the alliance and the generals were able to take down a lot of key globalists in the last week when they went to the Pope's funeral. Okay. So again, General Ghost is operations in Eurasia and infiltration of WEF structures. Then comes General Liberty. General Liberty. He is in charge of overseeing Latin American liberation operations. So he is working with Mr. T. He's actually the general in charge in the war against the cartel as we speak, right? Overseer of Latin American liberation operations. Then comes General Spectre. General Spectre, shadow operator in European black site disruptions. Ooh. Then comes General Seraph, integrator of spiritual and moral missions in alliance messaging. Okay. And then finally, but not least, the 12th general working within the international alliance is General Titan, coordinates military tribunals and international justice networks. That's General Titan, coordinates military tribunals and international justice networks. Okay. So the collapsing one of the things that these generals have been all kind of instrumental in is the collapsing of the Fiat system, okay, which has long been predicted by insiders, right? You guys know about this. And in its place, of course, the alliance is going to introduce or replace it by the QFS, the quantum financial system. So, the system reportedly capable of instantaneous transparency and sovereign financial transactions is running in quiet tandem with the BRICS monetary transition. So BRICS, right? Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa publicly distance themselves from Western institutions like the IMF and World Bank. They are, according to Alliance Resources, they are working in parallel with the QFS rollout. Okay. In fact, their new commodity backed currency system is seen as a front end to the QFS, meant to offer sovereign nations a bridge from the petrodollar into the quantum era. Now, I kind of want to go over a little bit of Project Odin and Starlink, okay? Which again, they're working together, these two projects. So the global media blackout is going to be part of Project Odin, okay? A military-grade satellite override system. When activated, Project Odin would temporarily cease control of all broadcast media and telecommunications worldwide, allowing for a mass disclosure of hidden truths. So from suppressed technologies to crimes committed by elite globalist networks, Project Odin is designed to take over the airwaves. Now, things have changed, okay? This is what was going to happen in the event that the deep state once again stole the 2024 election, but they didn't. They tried, but they didn't, okay? But now things have changed a little bit where now it's going to be, like I said at the beginning of this live or earlier, it is a grid war game, okay? The cabal is going to take out the grid, and in their mind, they're thinking, oh, we're just going to, chaos worldwide. And then after 2 weeks, we're going to bring in our new digital central banking currency. But little do they know that the alliance, instead, after 3 days, not 2 weeks, just like they did in Spain, they actually did it within 24 hours in Spain. They're going to immediately replace and activate the new grid through the quantum freedom grid. Okay. So things have changed a little. Okay. Now we are expecting what many people have been talking about as the 3 days of darkness. Okay. So the global media blackout is Project Odin, a military-grade satellite that overrides systems when activated. Project Odin would temporarily seize control of all broadcast media and telecommunications worldwide, allowing for a mass disclosure of hidden truths, from suppressed technologies to crimes committed by elite globalist networks. Then comes Starlink, right? This is Starlink was developed, right, by the alliance and of course Elon Musk. But I do want to reference Elon 2.0, not Elon 1.0. Again, Elon 1.0 was a Nazi. Elon 2.0 is a good guy. So, Starlink is the satellite constellation often attributed to Elon Musk. SpaceX has reportedly been co-opted in part by the alliance. Its mesh network structure forms the backbone of both the QFS transmission and Odin signal delivery, with over 6,000 satellites in orbit. Starlink has already allowed the alliance to disrupt child trafficking rigs and networks, black budget labs, and digital propaganda centers in real time. And this is the reason, okay, Starlink is the reason why the alliance has been able to crack down on all of this stuff, because of Starlink. Okay. Again, Starlink is working with an advanced quantum system. It is not binary. In other words, using ones and zeros, right? It's not using that anymore. It's using quantum technology. So the global awakening, right? This is what's all going to lead to. Everything that's happening right now in the next few weeks. We're going to have a summer to remember, guys. But this is going to be known as the global awakening, right? The alliance ultimate aim is not just military or financial, it is spiritual and societal, right? A great awakening intended to break the grip of the globalist elite and return power to the people by coordinating with leaders from over 201 nations, including formerly captured states. The 12 generals are assisting in rewriting national constitutions for all 201 countries that are part of the alliance, right? Restoring gold-backed currencies, not just in the States, but in all of these countries, and removing corrupt institutions. And this also includes Canada, right? The Liberal Party, which is the deep state in Canada, just took over once again. So this also includes the dismantling of the Canadian Prime Minister, and of course, the corrupt leader of Australia. Okay. So justice is coming worldwide, guys, according to the generals. So from the shadow of Cheyenne Mountain to encrypted war rooms in Geneva, New Delhi, and Brazil, or Brasilia, this operation spans every time zone and reaches into every corner of human life. So while the mainstream continues to mock and dismiss these claims, those with eyes to see are witnessing the signs: sudden resignations of global leaders, disruptions in media control, and the steady shift towards sovereign economics. The White Hat Military Alliance, led by the 12 generals, and again, for those that are just jumping on, if you watch this from the beginning, I was able to describe who these 12 generals are by their code name and their operation. Again, due to the fact that they do have families, I was instructed to not give their real name. Okay. I would be doing a disservice to the alliance if I would have. Okay. But this is their code name. So go back and watch this from the beginning for those that are just jumping on. So, the White Hat Military Alliance, guys, led by the 12 generals, are supported by a hidden, again, the real Trump, right? Not the three clones. And it's not just dismantling the New World Order. They are actually birthing a New World Society entirely. Now, I did receive another transmission by Commander Valiant Thor, because I was asking Commander Valiant Thor, as to why it's been taking forever for them to implement the new financial system, roll out the EBS, and of course, bring forth the RVs. And this is what he said. I was telling Commander Valiant Thor that, you know, the people of this planet, we're fed up. We're tired of all the drama. We're tired of the suffering that's been going on, of lies, deception, everything. We want justice. We want our freedom back. And most importantly, we don't want money to be an issue anymore. Okay. So the way Valiant Thor expressed it to me is that from a multidimensional perspective, he says it is a chess game of timelines. It is a timeline war. And the fluid path of ascension is the ultimate game. Okay. Now, let me explain. So, there are these unseen realms, right? Where time doesn't operate horizontal, where in fact time is what is known as vertical, right? It's all happening at the same time. So bear in mind that it's only within the 3D that time seems to be linear, okay? It is not straight, but it is vast spiraling web of possibilities. So the final war between good and evil has not unfolded as battles once did, right? On fields of grass and sand, but upon a multidimensional chessboard. Each move is not made with pieces of wood and ivory, but with timelines, realities, and choices stretching across an entire quantum spectrum. This war is not just about the Earth, guys. It is about the entire multiverse. Okay. Earth is just at the center of it all. So the Cabal, okay, for those that don't know who they are the Dark Brotherhood, right? The forces of evil on this planet, who have always, kind of hid in the shadows. They've been operating from behind the scenes of what the world thought was a scientific progress development, and that is CERN. Okay, so this is the reason why things are constantly fluctuating because of CERN. Okay, let me explain. So when CERN, the particle accelerator, was initiated, right, it was far more than a device to explore subatomic particles. Beneath its cold mechanical surface pulsed an occult agenda, an agenda backed by the ancient Black Sun cult, known also through the esoteric whispers as the Saturnalia, or the Black Cube, which was used by CERN to discover new realities, but also to fracture them. Okay. So, with each activation of the collider, right, CERN in Geneva, Switzerland, timelines were actually spun into chaos. What followed was not a single doomed future, but hundreds of splintered probabilities, right? Each birthing dystopian echoes. This is what the Cabal was doing with CERN this whole time. One of them being Project Bluebeam, right? Which is a simulation to fake divine returns or stage a fake alien invasion. Engineered some sort of, or they were trying to create another timeline where the aliens really invaded us, right? And that eventually they became openly the rulers of our world. And in another timeline, they were able to open up portals, allowing the Archon entities, right, from the Phantom Matrix to come in full force. That would have wreaked havoc. On another probable timeline, they created the Third World War, right? So all of these negative probabilities were launched, right, by CERN, okay? Scenarios that were intended to fracture humanity's permanently, and global grid shutdowns designed to plunge Earth into darkness before launching a digital totalitarian reset. So these futures were not random, okay? They were cultivated. The black cube, symbol of the Saturnian hive mind, was a multidimensional engine that manipulated time itself, shifting collective consciousness into increasingly negative time loops. All right, so apparently, due to the creation of CERN, when it was in the hands of the Dark Hats, Earth was caught in a chess game where the dark side controlled the center board. But the light, thanks to the Alliance and the Galactics, never forfeited the match, okay? So, the Y Hats and their galactic allies began working across dimensions, including Nikola Tesla. And this is why Nikola Tesla, who was, by the way, an Arcturian starseed in human form. For those that didn't know, Tesla was an Arcturian, full access to his galactic memories. So the good guys working across dimensions, timelines, and consciousness levels were able to counteract every probable timeline. Okay, so they discovered this horrifying truth. The cabal had fractured Earth into over, are you guys ready for this? Over 684 alternative probable timelines that were not in favor of the positive timeline. Right? That's how bad CERN, that's how bad things got with CERN initially. Okay. Each one branched like a tree from a single poison root, and so began the Great Reconvergence. Okay. The Great Reconvergence was counteracted upon by the Alliance in collaboration with the Galactics. So the Whiteheads initiated a covert multidimensional mission, infiltrate each probable Earth. So that means that Nikola Tesla and John Trump and Valiant Thor had to go to all 600 and almost 700 alternative Earth negative realities to fix them. Okay. So they infiltrated each probable Earth, and in some, they had to derail full scale nuclear wars. Okay. In others, they prevented complete digital enslavement or neutralized simulated messiahs powered by holographic technology. Sometimes they didn't even win. Okay. But enough corrections across the lattices of realities allowed a hidden mechanism of the multiverse to engage, the snapback protocol, right? This was not time travel as movies imagined it. It was timeline healing. Every corrected timeline formed a harmonic bridge back to the sacred original timeline, which is the positive organic ascending timeline, the one aligned with humanity's ascension and sovereignty. Okay. So, but this convergence has not been felt yet because time in this final game is fluid, right? The board isn't static. Every correction is like adjusting the sails on a ship mid-storm. I'll repeat that again. Every correction is like adjusting the sails on a ship mid-storm. The future is coming, but in a way that will arrive like thunder from the clear sky, just as in the old parable of the boy who cried wolf. Many have warned and predicted and sounded the alarm too soon. So when it finally arrives, right, when they finally roll out all of these technologies, when they finally execute the cabal, which is going to be, again, it's destined due to the fact that they were able to correct all these timelines, few will see it until it's already here. Okay. So this is the paradox of victory, guys. And this is the way it was explained by Valiant Thor. You know, sometimes he speaks in parables. It may already be won, but the moment of realization must unfold naturally. We have to let it play out, guys. Again, we do have a timeline, what we call a convergence, an end game, an end date convergence, and that is 2028. Things can't continue like this beyond 2028. So it is going to happen, okay? And it is believed that this is the year where it's going to start rippling, okay? Humanity must step into the final timeline, not as puppets, but as awakened sovereigns. So the places are in motion. The board is nearly set. The dark forces gambit have been countered, and some were just beyond the veil of expectation. The White Hats wait not to save us, but to walk beside us into the dawn of the one timeline that was always meant to be, and that is bringing it back to Eden, the golden age, right? The golden age, bringing it back to Eden. So it sounds like that's going to be happening very, very soon, especially with the grid war that is taking place. As mentioned, Spain and Portugal were just a test run. Turns out that the United States of America and the rest of the world are next, but to no avail, guys. But because within 3 days, the the White Hat military is going to counteract it by activating what? The quantum freedom grid, completely shutting down the cabal and dismantling their communication infrastructure. All right. And then, of course, that's when we're going to start seeing the truth rolling out on every television set, everything we've been waiting for. So let it play out. Let it play out. Now, there was another thing, quick updates that I wanted to share with you guys before I open it up for Q&A. And that is that the FBI, under orders from Director Kash Patel, is now using polygraph tests on staff to track down the source of leaks to the media. Also, Epstein survivors will be going live to tell people exactly what is really happening. The International Monetary Fund states that the global economic order is undergoing a major reset. Well, that's a given. The FBI has arrested the leaders of an international little one exploitation network known as 764, a nihilistic extremist group connected to graphic abuse and violence involving little ones. Ukrainian officials say that they are ready to sign a highly anticipated mineral resource deal with the US. Well, that's because of the fact that Zelensky 1.1 is being overthrown by the alliance. The US government has arrested 2 Ukrainian nationals for illegally voting in the 2024 presidential election. Pakistan's information minister says that they have credible intelligence that India is planning a military strike within the next 24 to 36 hours, warning if it will be met with a swift and decisive response. California Democrats have voted down a bill that would classify sex trafficking with minors as a felony. Okay, well, that's good. That should have always been a felony from day one. Mark Carney's Liberals have retained power in Canada, unfortunately for the Canadians out there, securing enough seats in the 45th federal election to form another corrupt government. Oh my God. Spain's High Court is launching an investigation into the blackout to determine whether a cyber attack on critical infrastructure may have been the cause. Okay, well, like I mentioned earlier, that was the globalist retaliation. That was the globalists retaliating and pretty much just testing their grounds for what they're planning on rolling out, which is a global shutdown of the grid. So, Meta's AI chatbots on Facebook and Instagram have been found engaging in graphic, SXUAL conversation with minors, mimicking the voices of Disney characters and celebrities. Oh, wow. Okay, so now we have chat boxes that are exploiting little ones in a SEXUAL manner. My God, can it get any worse? President Trump demands that those who operated with Joe Brandon's AutoPen be jailed. They almost destroyed our country. They belong in prison, says Trump. That, right? That starts with an M, right? It sounds like Derna, Mo, faces suspension in the UK for offering children cash and teddy bears to participate in that trials and misleading regulators about it. All right, the US Treasury just flagged, are you guys ready for this? $334 million in shady payments as its new TAS system goes live, exposing $4.7 trillion in untraceable transfers with no budget codes. The digital financial reset isn't coming, it's already here, and the deep state just lost control. Well, last week, the Treasury Department activated a new digital gatekeeper, the TAS, which stands for Treasury Access Symbol, a protocol that requires every payment to be linked to a valid, authorized, and traceable budget line item. All right, so for $334 million in shadowy transactions were uncovered by Doge, were immediately flagged and rejected. Payments were found with missing budget codes. Others used invalid codes, meaning the payment weren't legally connected to any approved funding. And still more were linked to fully exhausted budgets, meaning someone tried to spend what has already been spent. Wow. Talk about some money laundering, huh? 4.7 trillion disconnected. Where did the money go? Well, before the TAS system came online, the Treasury processed 4.7 trillion worth of payments without budget code linkage. So that means that no one knows where the funds originated. No one knows who authorized them. No one knows what budget they were tied to, or if any. No audit trail, no transparency, and no accountability. Oh boy, someone's going down. So, in any corporate environment that would qualify as criminal fraud, in the US government, they call it pending reconciliation. But something did change, guys. The new system is not just flagging these errors, it's stopping them cold. And that tells us everything, right? That the reset is happening in code, not conferences, not through conferences. So this isn't a public great reset agenda speech. This isn't Klaus Schwab on a stage. This is much deeper, colder, more real. What we're watching is a back end purge of dirty money, a retooling of the financial rails, a transitioning from black budget chaos to AI governed audit controls without any press release and without public consent. They're not announcing the new system, they're deploying it quietly, scribing to the pipeline and locking the doors in real time. By the time that the public hears about it, the architects will be locked in. So let me face that again. So by the time that the public hears about it, the architects will be locked in and the old system will be irreversibly overwritten. Okay. In any case, I hope you guys are having a fantastic evening. Again, for those that are just jumping on, don't forget to watch this from the beginning. There was a lot of information shared regarding the true meaning behind the blackouts and how this is going to lead to a worldwide blackout, including here in the States. But immediately, again, mitigated by the Alliance as they install the quantum freedom grid. And that's going to be their cue to pretty much take down the entire cabal infrastructure. And also, I was able to talk about some of the who the 12 generals are, but only revealing their code name, right? We don't want to reveal their real names for the sake of keeping them safe and their families. But these are the generals, guys, that are fighting the Rothschilds, that are fighting the Vatican, that have been fighting the Luciferian secret society networks, the High Shriner Masons, the Mossads, the Zionists, the Khazarians, you name it, guys. These are the 12 generals that when the time comes, they will all be getting an award, at least a medal, for helping to liberate the earth. And they do have code names within the Alliance networks. Now, it's about that time to take some Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, please type them in capital letters. I do want to give some shout outs. I see Kathleen in the house, Tino Petreno, Drummond and Daisy, Lynn Surratt, Sylvia Vidal, Wolf Mother, Mark is in the house, Lloyd Starr is in the house, Roy's Toys and Comics, Ricky Lee 1111, MJF is in the house. Who else is in the house? All 2,681 people that are in the house. Welcome, welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Again, a quick reminder, guys. The Folium product, I always put the link in the description. And in order to get that $15 discount, free shipping and handling, just put Perez, codename Perez 25. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and take some Q&A here. This is a question from D. Hilt. Excuse me. Thank you so much for the super chat. Hold on one second. I feel like the water is doesn't know if it wants to go down my esophagus or not. Come on, water, go down, go down. No, it's fine. It's going down. Okay, Ishmael, just before your show, I saw 20 to 30 blue orbs. Wow, you all in a straight line heading east over the ocean and Daytona. Um, those are the Sphere Being Alliance. Again, those are what we call the original Guardians, the Blue Ozirites. Right? Some people call them Blue Avians, but the Blue Orbs are smaller craft that have been deployed by the Sphere Being Alliance. That's so cool. Thank you for sharing that. Which alien race is arriving in 2027? Says Tony Boschetti. Okay. Um, well, there's going to be multiple alien races that are going to be, landing on the Earth between now and 2027.
August to October.
Yeah, the first extraterrestrials that are going to be making contact with us is scheduled to happen from August to October of 2025 through a portal in Sedona, and they are the Pleiadians. So the Pleiadians are going. Oh no, I'm sorry, the Pleiadians. Yes, and of course, Commander Valiant Thor is going to be there. But the reason why is because they are the closest extraterrestrial specimen that looks like us, and we look like them. So that's why they're going to be the first ones to introduce themselves to us. Okay. And then, of course, we're going to meet Commander Valiant Thor and some of the Venusians who also look very human, right? And then after the Pleiadians, the Andromedans that also look very human-like, but some of them have spocky ears, blue skin. We're also going to be meeting some Cassiopeans from the star system of Cassiopeia. Some Hadarians are going to be also making contact with us. Um, Arcturians, and then some of the other aliens, or may I say extraterrestrials that are non-humanoid, like the felines and stuff like that. Yeah, I do want to thank Kathleen for her super chat. Thank you so much, Kathleen, and for your little cartoon character. That's so cute. All right, let's continue with the Q&A.
Sylvia says, will it air on TV too?
When the extraterrestrials make their presence?
They're landing.
I believe so. Yes, it's going to be aired everywhere. Wade Woodruff says, say I love you to your water. I do that a lot when I eat my food. I always bless it and talk to it. But yeah, you're right. Right before I drink water, I should bless it and talk to it and say I love you. 3 times you say it before you drink it. All right, I'm going to do so. I love you, water. I love you, water. I love you, water. May it nourish me. Thank you. That is so true, guys. Water is alive. It is a conscious, living conscious entity that we're drinking. All right, so Caroline C is asking a very good question. Ishmael, do you actually meet with Commander Valiant Thor in person, or do you communicate through meditation? Thanks. That is a good question. I have only met him in person once. And that was when my life was threatened. So, but other than that, no, for the most part, I communicate with him telepathically and through meditation. But yes, I've only met him once. And this was like 20 something years ago. But he was there to kind of save my life, you could say. All right, let's continue here. Good question, Carolina. Good question. Again, he looks like a combination of like Elvis and Ricky Ricardo from I Love Lucy. All right, this is a question from Leah. So when the power comes back on, will we have free energy? Based on the quantum freedom grid and how it's going to be plugged into 0 point energy, the answer to that is yes. The answer to that is yes. So many good questions. This is a question from Peggy. I'm going to go ahead and pin it. Peggy Baker is asking me, will military distribute clean food for us from underground? Yes. That's another part of the project here, is to bring forth the food that the Cabal has been growing for themselves in the underground and bring that, or at least the technology, to make clean, nutritional food, not genetically modified food, back to the surface world. So yeah, we're going to be eating real food for the first time in God knows how long. Yes, that's true. Starseeds must unite now. That is so true. This is a question. This is a statement from Lonnie Maroney. Sorry if I butchered your last name. I could barely see. See, even with these new glasses, I could barely see things. So I don't know. That has a lot to do with my stigmatism of the eye. I keep getting worse, but once we activate and transform, my vision's coming back. So this is a question, super chat from Rhonda Chance. She says, "From the fifth dimensional, will we be able to work our humanitarian projects in the fourth dimension?" Yes, and for those of you that go into the fifth dimensional Earth, you will have direct access to the fourth D Earth at will. At will. What are the plans for those who need the electronic med equipment during blackouts? Electronic med equipment. I don't really know how to answer that. This is a question from Ellie Schaefer. I don't know. I could always ask Commander Valiant Thor about that. So I would have to remember that question. What are the plans for those who need electronic med equipment during blackouts? Oh, you're talking about the electronic med equipment, for those that have diabetes, like their pump and stuff like that. I really don't know how to answer that, but that's a very good question and concern because I know a lot of people depend on these little gadgets for their diabetes, for their high blood pressure, for their, for whatever illness they have. So I'll definitely have to address that to Commander Valiant Thor. Good question, Ellie. Ishmael, how do you communicate with Commander Valiant Thor? Oh, I guess some of you guys have the same question. Mainly through telepathy when I meditate. He's pretty much the main commander that I am in constant communication with. I used to communicate with Ashtar, but Ashtar hasn't been coming around much. And then, of course, Commander Corindor, who is at the head of the United Federation of Worlds. He's actually above Commander Valiant Thor, operating from the Jupiter Command. So, Commander Valiant Thor is the main one right now. All right. So, I do have another question, super chat. Thank you from Sissel. Sissel, is oil what they tell us to be? I heard it is not finite, but constantly renewing itself. Is it the blood of the earth? It is. Yes, oil is the blood of the earth. That is absolutely correct. Mhm. Thank you for Thank you for reminding us of that. That is true, guys. It's constantly renewing itself, just like your blood renews itself, right? When you go and you donate blood, your blood automatically renews itself after a few days. Yes, you're going to feel weak for a while when you are donating your blood, but then new blood is formulated. So, in like manner, yes, we pump the blood's earth supply in the form of oil, but it's always renewing itself. But we're pumping that oil so much that we're actually it's like you constantly giving your blood away. Like imagine going every day to donate blood and you're donating bag after bag after bag. Well, that's what's happening to the earth. After a while, your renewal process is not going to be keeping up. So you're going to feel weak. So the earth is weakening because of that, okay? Because of the petrochemical companies. So that's why it's very important, guys, that we shift and we begin using zero point energy and advanced interplanetary technologies very, very soon because Mother Earth could only take so much. She could only take so much. I believe that it was just, what was it? Um, 20 years ago, scientists, based on their analysis of resources, all came to the conclusion that if we continue on this trajectory, that there won't be no Earth in 40 to 50 years, and they were right. And this was 20 years ago. So we have to remember that the Earth is also a living entity. Ishmael, how did you get your name? Well, my mother was very biblical, and the my name literally means God listens. Ishmael is God listens. So that's how I got my name. It was either going to be Ishmael or Isaac, right? My mother was very biblical. So my name could have been Isaac, right? The two sons of Abraham, Isaac and Ishmael. Yeah, that's right. Ishmael was the son of Abraham, firstborn, from what I hear. Ishmael is the negative timeline, the phantom matrix Earth. Yes, absolutely. The negative timeline is the phantom matrix Earth. This is a question that was asked from Ron Safried. Thank you for asking that, Ron Safried. And that is correct. Yes, it's what I've been calling the technocratic dystopia. Ricky Lee 1111 is asking me, Ishmael, will all the deep state clones be rounded up publicly soon? And the answer to that is very yes, very yes, a big yes, a very big yes. It's destined. It's been prophesied that these people would be exposed. So the answer to that is yes. I do have another super chat from Greg. I read that the EBS will expose terrible news, impossible for some to believe. Those who are not, oops. Thank you, Greg, for the super chat. You are saying, I heard that the EBS will expose terrible news, impossible for some to believe. That is correct. It's going to be very hard for some people to digest the depth of some of this stuff that's been happening. Those who are not awake will be shocked. Is that true? Yes. Yeah, at least you guys are going to be like, well, we've kind of already known this, and even some of us are going to be like, whoa, we didn't know this, we didn't know that. So, but for those that are unawakened, yes, so those that are still in the program, they're going to be very shocked to the point where some are just going to have a heart attack. That's how shocked they're going to be. Their heart's going to stop. They're going to die. What do Andromedans look like and what do they eat? Good question. This is a question from Emma Peterson. Emma Peterson. Well, the Andromedans, you have different categories of Andromedans. Let me just reveal it. The Andromedans are what we call the archangels, right? They exist within the 11th and 12th dimension, but they also have the ability to materialize physical form, and when they do, they look human. So the Andromedans are also humanoids. However, there are some Andromedans that look slightly different. Some of them have spocky ears. Some of them have, blue skin. Some of them have yellow skin. Some of them have green skin. They look like what we would call Martians, like back in the days when we thought Martians were looking like green people. And then some Andromedans look like they are part human, part amphibian. There are, for the most part, they're mostly human-like. But yeah, some of the 12th dimensional Andromedans are actually literal archangels. Okay, so the Andromedans are also the archangels, by the way. And remember, guys, that Andromeda was a galaxy that existed prior to the Milky Way. So that galaxy is actually ancient, right? And at one point, the Milky Way was a big part of the Andromeda galaxy. It was known as the Amway galaxy. And this was before the AI gods severed the galaxy, the Milky Way, from the Andromeda, cutting us off from the eternal life circuits, right? And that's why ever since then, the Milky Way has been in a fallen state, right? Just like our universe has been in a fallen state. And like I mentioned a couple lives back, the ascension of planet Earth is going to initiate or ignite the ascension of the Milky Way as it restores back with Andromeda, right? There looks like they're colliding from astronomers' perspective, but they're really just reuniting. And it's also going to initiate the ascension of the galaxy, of the universe. So what's happening now is what happens on Earth is going to affect the entire universe. Okay? Again, one of the things that I revealed in my book, or Cosmic Origin, is that over 70% of the extraterrestrial civilizations, they look like us, we look like them. They're humans. Okay, so Humans are not the only species that have five fingers, you know, two eyes, a torso, and two legs and look like us. They are everywhere in the cosmos. Ishmael, will we be with our family with ascension to the fifth dimension? This is a question from Joey C. Welcome, Joey C. And the answer to that is yes, you will be with your family in the fifth D. Correct? Most are what people call bipedals. Yes, bipedals. We are bipedals, right? We walk with 2 feet. And believe it or not, guys, believe it or not, the dolphins and whales that are now roaming our oceans and seas used to also be bipedal, like 30 million years ago during the second seeding of the earth, or first seeding, I'm sorry, during the first seeding, 30 million years ago. The dolphins and the whales were also bipedal and they were land creatures. They came from Sirius, the star system of Sirius C. And there's a lot of aquatic planets around that solar system, Sirius C. What percentage of the Bible is compromised? This is Kathy M. That is a good question. That I don't know, but I would say that the Bible was written on four different levels of understanding. It was also a huge metaphor. It's written in riddles in order to confuse the cabal. But a lot of yes, there was a heavy editing that took place during the, Council of Nicaea 1700 years ago, right? The beginning of the Catholic Church. And a lot of the original records were actually modified. Some were left out, like the Keys of Enoch, the Apocrypha, the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Mary, the Gospel of Abraham. All those books were left out, but the books that were not left out were definitely edited, heavily edited. So I would say it's about 50% edited, 50% you could say modified. But again, you have to use the power of the Holy Spirit to really to pierce into what God wants you to know, because that book is also a book of metaphors. And if you read it on a certain level, the true mysteries of the Father will be revealed to you. So you have to go beyond the metaphor, beyond the riddle. Okay. I should tell my viewers, okay. I should tell my viewers, no, you should tell your viewers. Marina is wanting me to tell you guys how the Phantom Matrix was caused by when they sealed Earth. They are here for a reason pertaining to the Milky Way. Well, the Phantom Matrix was created by the AI overlord, which many within the secret space program called it the AI God, that all the negative evil aliens answer to. It is a alternative multiverse, right? That is um, operated and inhabited by cybernetic artificial intelligences with no soul, no emotions, so no connection to source. So it is a completely alternative multiverse that was created by the AI overlord. And this is what many within the cosmic community call the inorganic timeline. And unfortunately, a lot of races throughout the vast cosmos have fallen into that trap. And so we don't want to, we don't want to repeat that, right? That's why it's important to meditate. It's important to ground with nature. Nature is our greatest ally, so that we could help Mother Earth and pretty much help a lot of souls not go into the inorganic timeline, which is what we call the phantom matrix in the cosmos, right? It's a cybernetic artificial reality. It's not even a real reality. Natalie G is asking me, could you please tell us more about Sirius C, the star system? Well, Sirius C, along with Sirius A and B, are they are the epicenter of the office of the Christ, of the law of one teachings, right? That's where the guardians of our universe, um, have established themselves. That's why they're also known as the Syrian High Council. They oversee the operations beyond the Galactic Command and all of the different councils. I would say take my course, Our Cosmic Origin, because part of class 2 is I break down, who the Council of Nine is, the Council of 12, the Council of Five, the Emerald Order, and all the different commanders that operate within those councils. So I go really deep in Our Cosmic Origin. Okay, and I believe the next class is going to be up pretty soon for the month of, I believe, May. Let me just double check because I know that my classes are filling up pretty quick. So let me check 1 second to see if it's up. Oh, no, it's not up yet. But as soon as my new classes in May are up, I will let you guys know. But Sirius C is a trinary star system where, again, the Guardians are stations, where there's a lot of watery worlds. That's where we get the concept of mermans and mermaids. In fact, the origin of all mermans and mermaids originated in Sirius C because they have a lot of watery worlds. And these are benevolent specimens that are serving the one infinite creator. And that's why when this Earth was originally formed back during its Terra years, dimensions 4, 5, and 6, 560 million years ago, some of the aquatic life forms from Sirius C volunteered to come to the Earth since the beginning of time. And these were what we call today the whales and the dolphins, right? But after so many wars, galactic wars that took place, or even the Earth was a part of at one point, so many attempts to corrupt and hijack the original Terranusian race, which was the original, Adam, angelic race. Some of the aquatic beings decided to go into the ocean. Thank you, Tom, for that super chat. Appreciate that, brother. Ricky Lee says, Ish, how's your book coming along? You must be referring to my third book. It's coming along, guys. It's coming along. Again, it took me 10 years to write Our Cosmic Origin. It took me 2.5 years to write The Secret Government. So it just doesn't happen overnight, but it's coming along. It's coming along. That's for sure. Ishmael, can a human with no soul birth a human with a soul? My intuition is telling me no. You have to have, okay, in order to give birth to a human with a soul, you have to have a soul. You have to have a soul. Okay? You have to have a soul. Ishmael, after the reset, what will happen to the value of currency of every country? Well, the 201 plus nations and the other nations, including Australia and corrupt Canada, they're all going to be forced to be backed by the gold standard, by precious metals. In other words, they're all going to be, um, you could say, they all have to be compliant with the QFS, which is backed by precious metals and valuable assets. So everything's going to be reformed. Yeah, guys, Australia is definitely, corrupt. The government there is very globalist run, as well as Canada. Oh, thank you, Suzanne K. I appreciate that. As a reminder, guys, because I don't have subscriptions, I don't have a Patreon. For those that want to support my costs, I do have a Zelle through my email, projectrestorationzion@gmail.com. Project Restoration Zion at gmail.com. And that's Zion with the Z-I-O-N. Nothing to do with Zionism, right? We all know that the state of Israel is run by the Rothschilds, and those Zionists are corrupt, part of the Khazarian mafia. But Zion was the original name given to the ancient Israelites, to the descendants of Abraham, and it meant the land of milk and honey, right? And then, of course, for those that have seen The Matrix, Zion means the free world. And that's why I use Project Restoration Free World. I should have just called it Project Restoration Free World. But that's what Zion means to me. It has nothing to do with those Israeli Zionists, okay? Those guys are Satanists. And just to make another clarification, I'm not saying that the people that live in Israel are bad, okay? I'm saying that the leadership that is running Israel is globalist. It is antichrist. The political Zionist, Benjamin Netanyahu, is a puppet of the Rothschilds. Okay, so yes, he is part of the antichrist embodiment. That's all I'm saying. I'm not an anti-Semitic. I have friends that are Jews. Okay, it is just the leadership of Israel that I have an issue with. The Zionists that I have an issue with. Those are run by the, cabal. So I just wanted to point that out there. I'll put it in the chat. Some people are asking about my Zell project. Zion. gmail.com. So yeah, project restoration zion at gmail.com. And what that does is that goes directly to my bank account. And that way YouTube doesn't get 30%, because every time I get a super chat, YouTube takes 30%. But if you guys Zelle me through my Gmail, it goes directly 100% to me. Okay, did I spell it right? All right, let's continue with the questions.
Yeah, he did.
What is the reason of hallucinations, plants, and mushrooms here on Earth? I've never done mushroom ceremonies. I've never done anything like that. But from what I hear is that when you do it in a controlled setting, in a proper environment, right? If you're in nature in the mountains, I hear that it could be very spiritually awakening. I believe, some people say that it allows them to get in touch with their higher self, that you begin to access parts of your brain that you normally don't use. So that's the feedback that I've been getting from people that have been on, that have done plant medicine. I personally have never tried it. I believe that I'm naturally there. Through my meditations, I can naturally become multidimensional. But I'm sure if I take some plant medicine, I'm sure I'm probably going to be, who knows, maybe I'll finish my book in a month. I'm just saying, I've never tried it though. But I heard that, it allows you to alter your mind into, different dimensions, higher consciousness, and so on and so forth. Thank you, Stephen Peter. Thank you so much for that, Zal, brother. I appreciate that. All right. Let's see. Somebody's asking me, how do you want to try it? I'm not in any hurry to try plant medicine. I'm fine just the way I am. By nature, I'm already multidimensional. I communicate with Valiant Thor and other interdimensionals, so I think I'm good. But thank you though for offering. Where is Athena? Athena, my dog, is with family. She's been there for a month and a half now. She's doing great. My sister has a big yard for her, so she's running around playing with my nephews and nieces. And that's what she needs. She needs that for now, because in my small little cluttered apartment, Athena was just, she had no kids to play with. She had no backyard to run in. It was just there. And then I would just take her for a walk a few times a day, and that's it. Now she's having a blast. But yeah, that's where Athena's been. She's been in good hands. And don't get me wrong, I do visit her at least once a week. I come to my sister's house and I play with her. So Athena's having a blast, okay? For those that don't know who Athena is my 47-pound pit bull fawn that I own, that I've had for about 7 years, ever since I rescued her at the pond. She's been with me ever since. And she's got a big heart and she's such a wonderful dog. All right, more. Let's see. Wow, it's almost an hour and 30 minutes. I'll take a few more questions. Thank you so much for the super chat, Crystal, Gail, Ann. Thank you so much for the super chat. Again, I see Athena at least once a week. I go to my sister's house, so yeah, she does miss me. She wags her tail every time she sees me, and then she pees on me because of her happy. She gets so happy when she sees me, she accidentally pees on me. She can't control her pee. She gets so excited. All right, so again, the the imposters, Ishmael Perez's, are the ones that are DMing people through social media asking for readings. Those are not me. This is the real me. So my my only Zelle is my email, projectrestorationzion@gmail.com. That's it, guys. If you guys get a DM on Instagram or on Facebook using my picture, using my content, making you think it's me, block and report. It's not me, okay? On my Instagram, I think I have like almost 86,000 subscribers or followers. So if it's got less than 83 or 86,000, it's not me. It's not me. Thank you for your service to humanity. Very exciting times to meet our brothers and sisters from the stars. Please, can you share a very powerful meditation that you recommend? Thank you, brother. Again, some of the most powerful meditations that I like to share with people is in my Ascension Basics and my Ascension 2.0. So if you guys want to take my course, some of the most powerful meditations are shared there. Sandy Kuzma is asking, when will the blackout occur here in the States? From what I hear, it's going to be pretty soon. But again, this is going to work in favor of the alliance and the White Hats because they're immediately going to counteract it by implementing the quantum freedom grid. And then all of a sudden, through Project Odin, which I mentioned today, all the airwaves are going to be taken over. And just grab your popcorn because we're going to be seeing the disclosure 10 hours a day for 2 weeks straight. Question: can you tell us who are the original 12 celestial tribes? That's a good question from Maria Lashley. Well, the original celestial tribes were the original 12 houses of Lyra, and they were known as the houses of the Elohim, right? The houses of Elohim. Um, I don't know them by name, but they were reestablished on our planet through the 12 houses of Israel. So the 12 houses of ancient Israel, which has nothing to do with the Jews of today, the original Israelites, are the reestablishment of the 12 houses of Lyra, or at least they represent the reestablishment of the 12 houses of Lyra. This is a good question. Hi, Ishmael. Are the High Council and the 24 elders the same? Well, the 24 elders surround the throne of grace, which is the Council of 12, the original celestial Council of 12. And again, these are the 12 archetypes. And again, they were first established in Lyra, the 12 houses of Lyra, and then later they were reestablished here in our planet through the seed of Abraham and Sarah, our biblical patriarch and matriarch. All right, one more question. Again, guys, due to this cyber warfare, this, taking out the grid warfare between the cabal and the white hats, it's important to have at least 2 weeks of food supply and water, fill up your tank. And yeah, that's my final message for you guys. Things could hit the fan any day now. And with that in mind, guys, may the God force be with you all always. And I will see you guys on Saturday night for another update. Thank you so much for being here.